Thank you, Dr. Dhanuraj. First of all, I'm pleased to know that I can speak in English because Kerala invitations, I'm not very comfortable as far as speaking about the subject in Malayalam is concerned, and I'm enthused by these youngsters who also probably prefer English. There could be discussions. Esteemed Mr. Sohan could have viewpoints on whether it should be English or Malayalam and all that, but I won't get into that. Thank you for this invitation, and the topic given to me was that of local urban issues in Kerala. Now this is a very dangerous topic. My experience and expertise is more at the national level, and I have seen activities in the urban sector in different parts of the country. At that time, I also happened to see what was happening in Kochi. I have certain viewpoints, so I think it's a closed audience, and Dr. Dhanuraj has given me this opportunity. I would like to make some statements which I think are relevant. Now, the idea is probably to discuss that, isn't it? So there is no point saying what someone wants to say or someone wants to hear. And I've started living in Kerala. I lived here before joining the service, and I studied in Maharajas here. So that's my connect with Kerala, last connect with Kerala. Then I moved out. I worked in the northern part of India. Now I've come back to Kochi. Sri Sohan may ask, why did you come back to Kochi? I mean, that's a factor. I think all said and done, one always has these great expectations. Coming back to one's own state and place. Probably that is something really good. Hari has joined now. Hari will, during discussions, will take it to another level. Anyway, Hari, you have joined at the right time. I haven't made my statements yet. Okay. So I'll straight start off. I have noted down some points which I thought could be relevant for today's kick-starting the process of discussion. I'll just only mention these points very briefly. I haven't accessed data and presented on that. I thought the KILA director would be here, who would be the right person who will have access to whatever data is there, and he'll be able to either contradict me or support me. But since he is not here, probably I'm in a slightly better position. But I'm sure these youngsters would have gathered enough data so they can come up with their own argument in case what I state is not relevant. First point I'd like to make is this is a state which is best suited for various new initiatives as far as urban governance is concerned. But why is it not being taken? That's a point for discussion. I have seen urban systems in different parts and also observed some other parts of the globe as well. Ideally, we are very literate people, very aware people. We have an opinion on almost everything. So if the professor is enjoying my statement. So if that is so, why is it that Kerala has not taken the lead as far as giving a different and new and workable form of urban governance is concerned? I hope there is no politician sitting here. If there is a Mr. Sohan is a different category. If there was an active politician sitting here, he would have said that, no, we have led the world, we have given the way forward for the world. That is debatable. But it's unfortunate that a state so aware, literate, and which has led on many other fronts has not been able to give a new form of urban governance which is meaningful for the residents of the city. Now, that's the first point I would like to make. Moving on to my second point, why is there no comprehensive integrated approach to the key future issues? I mean, I'm going beyond the current issues, the future issues. I mean, waste management is something which we keep discussing, and the last 1 year plus I've been sitting in Cochin. I have learned, digested the waste issues of Cochin, and I think we still seem to be debating what needs to be done about the waste of Kochi. And whenever I pass through roads and all, which all of you must be doing, we see garbage piles lying. Of course, it's in bags now, that's the difference. Lying in different parts of the city. That is also still there. Even yesterday, I was interacting with some groups as part of a jury. There are some groups, some private entrepreneurs, which have done very good work in places like Indore as far as waste treatment and management is concerned. And we have been talking about waste as a business proposition. So if that's a business proposition, whatever Kochi generates as waste, why is it not getting addressed or treated? That is one area. Now about water and issues like that, I don't know, Sohanji, we are aware of what our water problems will be 10 years from now in this city, or the flooding problems will be, or the drainage issues would be. What would be the intensity of rainfall? What is the problem which we are going to face? I don't know whether there is some awareness about these things. We talk about strategies. I mean, when we talk about waste management, I'm sure the Haritha Keralam or somebody will come forward and say that we are doing wonderful work. My simple question is, there is data relating to solid waste getting generated globally and in India also. Do we have statistics before us as to what is the waste we are generating today? What is the composition of that waste? And 5 years from now, what form is it likely to take, and what is the volume going to be? Some of you must be familiar with the 3 R's and 5 R's and things like that. As far as waste management is concerned, reduce, reuse, recycle and things like that. We are supposed to reduce the solid waste which we are generating. So ideally, if it is 1 ton today, tomorrow it is supposed to be little less than that. But we seem to be making very good progress globally, everywhere. 1 ton to 2 ton, 2 ton to 3 ton, like that. We keep going on. We generate more waste, and I think mostly people like us sitting here, we are only focused on generating the waste. Where it goes and what should happen to it, we are not really much concerned. That is where the problem is, and that is where this segregation issue, and at least earlier my student days, we could go and throw waste anywhere in any part of the city. There would be bins placed. But today it has become a difficult proposition. So if waste is a resource and one can make waste out of that, why isn't there a strategy as far as waste is concerned? This is only one of the areas I am picking and choosing as far as future issues and strategies are concerned. And it becomes relevant and important because everything, the way we are doing, it's all changing. Ideally, whoever provides the material, it should go back to the same person or company or whoever it is, so that the circulation of waste is limited. Then we are talking about circular economy and things like that. So if there is a question asked that what is the waste management strategy for the state as a whole? What is it today, and what is the direction we are going to take, and what is it going to be 5 years, 10 years from now? I don't think there are answers to that. And again, a very literate, aware state, and any number of guidelines available, any number of studies made. I'm just pinpointing on one area only. The third point is the credit rating of the municipal bodies. I'm suddenly jumping into a different area. We have, what is the number of urban local bodies we have in Kerala? 99. 99 of different categories, corporation to municipalities. And 99. And that is the different population ranges. The lowest would be what, 25,000 or something?
No, more than that.
No.
I think municipalities will have 60,000, 70,000.
ഏറ്റവും താഴെയുള്ളതിൽ 60-70,000. അല്ല population wise minimum will.
See, Kochi has got 6 lakh.
I know, that's a corporation category.
Yeah. One will be around 1 lakh.
Yeah. Maradu would be an example, I think. So, credit rating is something which we talked about during my time also. I'm talking about 2006 to 10, that urban bodies should go for credit rating. So that is something which has not really taken off in our country. And you will read some articles and all that. Some limited number of municipalities came out with municipal bonds and things like that, green bonds and things like that. These are all, one-off efforts which have taken place. If you have 4,000 plus urban local bodies in the country, and against that 4,000, even 40 have issued have municipal bonds, that would be a big positive. I don't know about Kerala. Someone said that Calicut, Kozhikode was probably the first municipal body to take the initiative for issuing a bond, but after that nothing happened, I think. And I don't know today whether any other urban body in Kerala has been able to issue a municipal bond. When we talk about resource constraint, the local bodies talk about our resource issue, hand-to-mouth existence, we just pay salaries and things like that. Like the state governments are asked to, the Kerala is a different category because the struggle is going on whether the center is permitting or not permitting, so I won't get into that. But as far as urban local bodies is concerned, if you have undertaken a study, I'm sure Dr. Dhanuraj's institution would have done some studies in this regard. Has it undergone a change, the revenue generation of our urban local bodies? There may not be much of a change, or there could be some change, but then that is not sufficient. So it's not sufficient for urban bodies to say that only if the state gives funds we will make use of that. Now when the center started giving funds under different programs and schemes, the complaint was that there is spoon feeding happening, so it should not be so. I don't know what the idea is, that the center should just earmark funds and hand it over to the state government. I don't know whether that is supposed to be. But if the center does scheme-wise, program-wise intervention, the idea is to bring about changes. Look at the Swachh Bharat mission itself. It has brought about change. I don't know about Kerala, but in many parts of the country it has brought about change because there is access to toilets possible today. It's something which did not happen, and urban is a subject mandated to the state governments only. The state governments could have taken such an initiative and done it long back also. I don't know what is the average hour of water supply in a city like Kochi, or does every household get water every day or not? I really don't know. It would be an interesting study. There are some local bodies in our country where water comes maybe 1 or 2 hours. In some places it comes once or twice a week also. There are places like that. So when we talk about resource generation, local bodies cannot get away by saying that the state is not giving me money. One should always look at what is the composition of resource I am generating at my local body level, and what is it which is coming from either the state government or central government or through loan and other sources. Has it undergone any change? Globally, again, for India as a whole, the generation of resources by the urban local bodies is very minimal. That's a fact. And more or less everyone is happy depending on property tax. Revised property tax, some more income will come. By that time, some more expenditure will get added. So that's it. But what about other sources? Looking at a city like Kochi again, I've been trying to tell the mayor, is there an advertisement policy, and do you generate enough money out of advertisement? Is there a parking policy? Because parking is a subject which is mandated to the urban local bodies. Do you have a parking policy, and do you generate money out of that? Because gone are the days when we could park anywhere and get away, saying that I can park anywhere. But if you are part of a city system, then you have to participate in the process of running the city also. So these are some possible sources for the local bodies, the traditional well-known sources. There could be new sources also. So why I am emphasizing this point about credit rating is, when you have a credit rating, you come to know what your weakness is and what are the areas where you can bring about improvements. Those suggestions come. Then you should take up those improvements and bring about those improvements so that your resource level goes up and you have more money at your level to spend. Now today every citizen will ask the corporation that you are not doing this, you are not doing that. The corporation will say the property tax collection is not up to the mark, so we don't have enough resources. Now property tax collection is a much smoother process in very many big cities of our country today. You can access it, you can make online payment. I don't know whether in Kochi you can make online payment still now or not. No. That is the greatness we have as far as our wonderful state is concerned. I have experienced this. We have to look for someone who will make the payment for you, and probably you have to pay a small commission also, probably employment generation. We look at it from that point of view, not a direct online payment. They are struggling. The smart city system is struggling, and every meeting we have this issue that it needs to go, it has to become online. So I think probably they are trying to make it online from a certain period onwards. So like birth and death certificates, I suppose it is possible now online, but again from a certain year only. If you go back to say my period or so, I won't be able to get my birth certificate online because it's not fed. The information in the database is not there. And to get that database generated and fed, it will take ages. So at least if today's generation, or at least 10 years back, 20 years back, you can get your birth certificate. Death certificate I won't cover now because death certificate is a different issue. We may be worried about someone's death certificate. So these are all possibilities today. So what I'm saying is, credit rating is an important exercise which should have been done in the entire urban local bodies of Kerala by now, and there should have been a way forward given. It has not happened. moving on, looking at the typical nature of Kerala, I mean, here is an urban continuum. So I don't know whether the traditional concept of master plans will continue to work here or not. What is your study? I don't know. You are an architect, right? No. Whether it will work or not. I am strongly of the view that we should have a regional planning approach as far as Kerala urban areas are concerned. Now, I had an opportunity to look at the Metropolitan Planning Committee arrangement for Kochi. We looked at it from different points of view because Kochi Corporation is a limited area. And very recently I realized that the moment you reach Lulu Mall, you are into Kalamesheri municipality. I don't know whether many of us even recognize that. So, now is there a difference between what happens in Kochi and what happens just next to Lulu Mall as far as Kalamesheri is concerned? It will be the Kalamesheri local body which will decide what needs to be done and their priorities. Kochi will decide its own priorities and it will happen. So gone are those days because I don't think individuals are bothered about the technically drawn limits. I repeat this instance for the National Capital Region. For the National Capital Region, since it is not possible to live in Delhi, people move out, workplaces outside, mostly in Delhi, Gurgaon or Noida and all that, and you live there, and some people have to come into Delhi. That's why the metro got extended to Noida and Gurgaon and all these places. So there, again, for an ordinary person, it doesn't make a difference, and it made a difference during COVID times, because everyone was stopped at the Noida border coming from UP. You cannot enter Delhi without this certificate, that certificate, without this vaccination, this, that, and all that. So that was one time when people were made to feel that. But gone are those days. Today, if you go to Delhi, you don't really know when you entered UP or when you entered Haryana. That's the scheme of things. Similarly, here also, there is no point focusing only on our limited Kochi corporation. I'm just taking an immediate example, because this is a region now. And that was supposed to be the concept of Metropolitan Planning Committee. I won't go into that because that's a constitutional provision which I think still needs to be implemented in a state like Kerala. Now, that's again the greatness of our state. We are aware, we are literate, we know everything in the world, but when it comes to a constitutional provision of Metropolitan Planning Committee, and I must say, I'm glad Mr. Sohan will bear me out. See, immediately after the Constitution Amendment, Kerala made a provision in the Local Bodies Act, Municipal Act, that there will be a Metropolitan Planning Committee. And during my time when the Jawaharlal Nehru mission was taken up, we asked the states about the status of 23 reforms, one of which was setting up Metropolitan Planning Committees for those cities. I would have loved to go back and work in the ministry and once again look up what Kerala said, but my impression is Kerala would have said, we have already implemented. In the sense, we have made a provision in the Municipalities Act. Now, no one can question that. Sitting at the center in Delhi, I cannot ask a state government, sorry to say this, like today's debate going on between the governor and the government. I couldn't have asked that question that if you have implemented, show me proof. We couldn't have. We went by what the state reported that we have implemented. Okay, we have implemented, we went by that, one reform ticked off. So, 93, 94 or so, the state said we have made provision for that. Now, as residents of Kochi or residents of Thiruvananthapuram or residents of Kannur or whatever it is, you all know whether there is a Metropolitan Planning Committee there, it is functional or not. There is no point bypassing issues like this. See, of course, we are in an experimenting stage. We are trying to see what appropriate form of urban governance. So we have to bring about changes. So regional planning is a concept which we'll have to take up. And personally, with due regards to my architect friends, I don't believe in master plans and things like that which are technically done, which are not accessible to the ordinary people. If it is being done, people should participate in the process, and after it is notified, it should be implemented, respected. We should not be looking for violations, and in Maharashtra it's a usual game. Any interventions you have to make against the master plan provision, everything goes to the government. It goes to the government at the topmost level. Normally, Chief Minister keeps the urban development portfolio with him or her. So only at that level it can be decided. But many decisions are happening about changing the land use. So unless these things are very clearly laid down, it's not going to work. And I think for Kerala, this regional planning approach is going to make absolute relevance, because you cannot confine your thinking, your activity, your structuring everything to the municipal limits of the Corporation of Kochi. You will have to go beyond that. And in the case of Kochi, Dr. Dhanuraj, if you look at it, it will be a very large area which will become a part of the metropolitan area, if that is made to work. And the approach also has to be such that that larger area has to be taken into account. Those who are residents, I'm not so very familiar, but you know that Tripunithara separate, Trikakara separate, Kalamesheri separate, Arur separate. That's not going to really work. And there I would say, I don't know, sometimes we like, sometimes we don't like. UK went in for a system of combined authorities. That is a cluster of local bodies working together for common purposes, which will work for Hari's urban transport, mobility, because again, you don't get off at Lulu Mall from Kochi Corporation and you don't enter another bus. Mobility is a continuous process, and people today have to come from far off. When I was traveling on that Kodungalur route, once I noticed the number of two-wheelers coming towards the city. It's unimaginable in the morning time, the number of two-wheelers coming. The question would be, why do they depend on two-wheelers? Because again, it's a door-to-door facility. Can you provide an alternate public transport system or not? That is something which one has to think about. They created a metropolitan transport authority for Kochi. It is kept in cold storage. We are great at that also. We create systems and then we ensure that systems do not work. It's not a political statement, Dr. Dhanuraj. It's what I'm seeing. And I have no interest in politics. I am not going to contest elections. I have no such intentions or belief. But now I am in a position to make these statements. Earlier when I was holding a position, I had certain limitations. But now after observing this, I can make these statements. And any of you can challenge me after this. I think he has provided enough time for that also. I shouldn't take too much time. So regional planning is an approach. And regional planning in a sensitive manner, befitting the requirements of the place. Now, it does not mean that a poor person who cannot understand is penalized tomorrow that, oh, the master plan says this, so you cannot do this. So we have to think of methods of making it work. And here, I think since we don't have industrial concentration and things like that, we have to think of what provisions to be made for different areas of the larger city or the metropolitan area, so to say. I have already referred to the waste management issue, cluster basis, and as a citizen living in Kochi, I should be aware of what is the waste I am generating today, and what is its composition, and what is it going to be tomorrow. I don't know whether any resident of Kochi has an awareness about that or not. Would anyone like to challenge me? Do we know sitting in Kochi?
We have a practitioner here who actually runs a company to pick the waste from the city. I don't know whether he has got some data.
But I don't know whether he would also be fortunate enough to get the full data for the city as a whole. Do you have it? There is no source you can go to, isn't it? I mean, ideally, it's a subject given to the local body. If you ask the local body, they will say that we are only handling these day-to-day problems. We are not looking into future and all that. That's what he is going to tell you. So you generate some data and you arrive at some assumptions and then you work on that basis, isn't it? Similarly, rainfall data is very critical. And we talk about flooding and things like that. I have always felt this, when flooding happens, do we generate data about the flooding happening at that particular point, at a particular time? That is what is going to guide us in future. We go by the broad rainfall figures, this many millimeters, this much, last year it was more, this year it is less, and things like that. But specific areas when we take up, what is the issue there, and how do people handle it, and what is it that we can think of as a solution for the future? We don't have this type of an approach. Ideally, I've always been advocating, I had done a capacity building group. Ideally, the local bodies should have specialized subjects and specialists doing all that work. It should be like a cabinet. There may be a commissioner, there may be a secretary, but then would be a waste management head, there will be a water head, there will be a PPP head, there will be a resource head. So there are different levels who should be working on this on a continuous basis and feeding the council with the information and the decision-making base so that the council can deliberate on it and come to a decision, come to a strategy, come to a policy. And where required, they can get support from the state government. We seem to be lacking. It's not just for Kerala only, but it's for the country as a whole. It's a different scenario of Mumbai like municipal corporation, they are flush with resources, so they have some method of thinking at this. Recently, I heard Bengaluru has probably opted for, there is something like a chief commissioner, and there are commissioners for different areas. Hope it leads to a scenario where you address these fundamentals and you think about the future and you think about strategies as to how to manage that. Mobility I have already referred to. Then you can tell me when I have to stop also, okay? If it is number 6. Mobility I've covered in passing the Metropolitan Transport Authority, the legislation made, and then there is nothing much happening. This is the right time for the Metropolitan Transport Authority to look into issues like what are the types of trips undertaken? What is it going to be in future? If you look at the London Transport Authority, Hari will confirm this. If you look at the London Transport Authority's working, of course it evolved over a period of time, Hari, isn't it? It didn't happen in 1 or 2 years. It evolved over a period of time. But either the London Transport Authority or the Singapore Land Transport Authority, they all have a system of working, looking at what are the types of trips, what are the modes of transport used by people, which are the peak hours, what needs to be addressed, and what can be expanded, what can be facilitated. Their planning of route planning and extension of the public transport system is based on these studies. And if you go to London, somebody is trying to study abroad and all that, if you go to London, try to find out. There they will give you data, unlike our friend here, they will give you data about what it is going to be 10 years from now. They undertake those studies. Similarly, Singapore also, there are other places also. They know what is it going to be tomorrow. So they will bring in policies where use of personalized vehicles gets limited, or you pay more through congestion charge for central areas and things like that. So you're made to depend on the public transport. But public transport is affordable, comfortable. That is what is important. It's not just enough to say that we will introduce more buses. I must also make this controversial statement, Dr. Dhanuraj. When metro for Kochi was being considered, somebody said that why do you think about capital intensive metro? You should have more buses. So I was a little bit extreme. I said, then you line up the number of buses which you want and tell me what space is left on the road after that. It's one thing to say that we should have buses. I am not disrespecting that. Many people depend on that. But along with that, you have to have an assured means of transport. I was telling him now that though there are people against metro and things like that, in Europe they invested in metro years back. Because of that, there is a definite means now by which you can be sure that you can reach a particular place in 13 minutes or 14 minutes or whatever it is. That is going to be the plight in cities like Cochin 10 years from now, whatever it is. So I am an advocate of investing in metro in the right manner, taking into account the requirements of the future, because 10 years from now, 20 years from now, if you start thinking about a metro, you won't be able to do it at all. Even for MG Road, when the proposal was being considered, one representation made by the traders there was that this will make the road dark. I partly agree with that statement, because when you look at the station premises built, under that, if there is no lighting, then it looks little darkish. That's a fact. But that was a main point made, that this will make our MG Road dark. So you cannot have a metro because it was elevated. Underground, probably you don't feel the difference. Number 6, mobility is over. Then cities need professionals. I have already referred to that. We cannot continue to live in this scheme of things where there is not much of a professional as far as cities' problems are concerned. Again, look at the state level, look at national level, and look at the cities. We want the cities to perform and deliver, but then they don't have the wherewithal to do it. It's basically the property tax department or whatever it is, the collection arrangements, and whatever one has to approach to get clearances, approvals and things like that. You ask the mayor tomorrow or any day that what are your strategies for these very, very segments which you are mandated to. You would have studied 18 subjects mandated to local bodies. They are supposed to move forward as far as, because that was supposed to be the ideal place to locate it. The city should be the ideal place. This again could be a controversial statement. After seeing scheme of things here, Sohanji, I think the political system here wants to be the executive also in the local bodies. So whatever relevance the civil service has, that has more or less been done away with. Now only those who have interacted and those who have studied would want to say anything on this, but that is my feeling. Do you think the Chief Minister and the ministers should be doing everything, including issuing a permit or order also? We more or less seem to have reached a stage like that in our urban bodies, that the council will decide or the committee will decide. If there is a mayor or chairperson, he or she alone cannot decide. So everything is, I think, decided at that level. I may not have full experience of that, but that's what I understand. The idea is separation between policy making and implementation. That is the core of democracy. And both levels should be accountable. When you make policies, if you are interested with the task, you are responsible for the policies you make. Similarly, when it is implementation, you have to be held accountable for that. You have to deliver and you have to make sure that you perform accordingly. That is why there is a control of control by the elected system over the civil service. Now that line, I think, is either it has already disappeared or it's more or less disappearing in the scheme of things of our cities. Now today, if you have a problem or issue, I don't know whether you will approach the secretary. First of all, it's only in Kerala it is a secretary. Everywhere it's a commissioner. That's an understood system. The municipal commissioner is a functionary to whom certain levels of activities are delegated, and he and his team are supposed to take care of that. But here I think if you have a problem, you only think of either the mayor or a councillor. And I don't know, Sohanji, I don't know whether decisions also would be divided according to politics. Possible. So then what does an ordinary citizen do who has no political affiliation? I don't think it's a healthy scheme of things as far as local governance and democracy is concerned. I leave it at that. And the last point is we have to have what is called a new citizen participation model. I believe ward committees are working in Kerala. That's one big thing. Compared to very many other states, there are ward committees. But how effective and functional the ward committees are, probably you would know. Will any of us go for a ward committee meeting? I don't know. When the flagship program of Urban Renewal Mission was taken up, there was a further idea given to the states that you should go below the ward committee level to what is called the polling booth level, the area sabhas. See, you and I as neighbors living in a locality would like to interact better and talk about our problems and project our issues and problems if we get together at that level. Roughly 1,000 persons polling booth, that's the level. And out of 1,000, maybe 200, 300 people may attend a meeting if it's on a holiday or so. Then you discuss, debate about your issues. This became very relevant during COVID times. Normally we don't know who our neighbor is and what the neighbor's problems are. There were people with health problems. They couldn't get out. They didn't want to come out. They needed help. There were youngsters who were prepared to help. But it's a question of, that type of a camaraderie existing at that level. We have not thought about that at all, and how effective the ward committees are, I have no experience, but I think some meetings are held and the councillor probably dominates. I don't know whether people subscribing to the other political viewpoint attend those meetings or that, I don't know. So I would conclude with a statement that our local body governance should rise above the politics part of it. Let them do politics when the elections take place, but the remaining 4 years plus or so, it should be above politics, and there should be a sort of agreement or arrangement whereby people will work together for the city or the town as a whole. We have to have a system like that because this is not the playing field for politics. There are other fields for that. So we should arrive at an understanding, and the only thing we can do is when we vote, probably we should try to, find out whether this can happen in our scheme of things or not. These are my thoughts, Dr. Dhanuraj, on the topic you have given to me. Now, you might have found it useful, valuable, you may not have, but it's up to you to discuss further. Thank you.